Hey everyone, it's Monkey and FTW back with another coaster build video, and in this video I'm going to make a B&M wing coaster, which is not a standard coaster that was in the game, but it's been added through a mod by the RCT3 community, and it's a fairly new design by B&M where you have the seats way at the side of the track, if you will, and I'm going to try and make a nice one. So we're starting off with a really nice, I'm not sure what it's called, like a heart loop or a pretzel loop. Someone can correct me in the comment section. And from here on out, I had a bit of difficulty figuring out how to turn around the track, if you will, because I didn't want this to go too far. So I really like the idea of a 0G roll and then maybe some overbank turns, but I just couldn't quite figure out how to do it. And again, I'm using some smaller overbank turns, and that way I could possibly make a turnaround element. But again, I really didn't like the way it looked. It was a bit too cramped, if you will. So I just settled for, how do you say, two dive loops or whatever, two halves of a dive loop into a 0G roll. And this really cool element that I like, which is an overbank turn into a barrel roll and another overbank turn. And from here on out, I wanted to go to the lower section or the smaller section of the track, meaning some smaller inversions. And again, I had kind of difficulty figuring out how I start this section, if we will, and I settled on a mid-course brake run, which I know more modern B&Ms don't have, but in this case it really works to slows down the train enough where those smaller or lower inversions aren't going to feel too fast. So you got to take you got to work with what you have in RCT3. Here I'm extending the brake run or the turnaround from the station to the lift hill to make sure it all aligns. Now there will be some minor tweaks here because as we're going to test the roller coaster right now, I always check the pacing before I make any changes. So here I'm just following the train along to see how the pacing is, and yeah, when it hits the brake run, it goes a little bit too fast. So I'm thinking about extending the brake run, but unfortunately that doesn't quite work because that means I also have to move the 0G roll that you see right before the path. And I want to make the 0G roll go over the path, kind of like Gatekeeper again. So had some time, spent some time fiddling around here with this design, but overall I decided to make the corner into the brake run a bit shorter, and then that would work. And again, I tried to maybe alter this last section of turns here, but yeah, that didn't work out quite as well as I hoped. So I just stuck to the original design, which is fine. And yeah, like I said, you can't have everything. And I thought that these last couple of turns that you'll see right now are pretty cool, which are 90 degrees in terms of angle, and then a bit of a straight track here, so you get that feeling like you're flying vertically, like almost like a fighter jet or something. So like flying at 90 degrees, I mean straight forward, so it feels like a fighter jet. So there you go, that's the track design. So from here on out, we're going to start with the custom scenery. Of course, as always, we're going to kill the supports, and then we're going to place some pre-made supports that I have with that saves me a lot of time. So these already have all the pieces from Moby Steel Jungle, all the flanges, you name it. For the loops, I'm still using the large loop pieces from JCat Steelworks. I really like the way they look. They fit really well because they have that connecting piece that is blue, the same color as the track. And then you have the white supports with a few flanges as well, so that works quite well. So here I'm trying to make a T-support for the track. And I had a pre-saved design, but unfortunately it doesn't work because these wing coaster trains are so wide that I have to use, I have to leave extra room for the train. So once again, this roller coaster, because of that, is going to have a lot of custom fabrication. But yeah, it is what it is. I mean, I could just make it a lot more simple, maybe just use JCat Steelworks for everything, and it will look okay. But I always have such attention to detail when it comes to making these roller coasters that I decided, okay, I'm just going to custom fabricate a whole lot. And again, I'm not in a rush to do anything, so it's okay if I take an hour extra or something. I'm not in a rush to complete them. So here we have a lower section, and I wanted to make a tunnel here, which I thought would be a really cool idea. But unfortunately it was quite difficult to figure it out because I wanted to use this terrain here and then use some terrain blocks, but of course that didn't quite work. So I was kind of fiddling around with it and fidgeting around with it, and I couldn't quite make it happen. So what I decided to do is I decided to make some sort of a barn here that the train would go through. And again, if I ever wanted to change its design, then I could. But yeah, I wanted to feel like you're just kind of flying through a barn, if you will, if that makes any sense. But I thought that was a pretty decent idea. It's for now, it's the best I got. So we're just going to do that. And I am going to add some terrain, and you'll see me in a bit. I'll add some mist particles as well. So, you know, going into the mist, kind of like the first drop of Goliath and Titan at Six Flags. So here we are just finishing up the design of these overbank turns. And again, there's a lot of custom fabrication that comes into this part of the roller coaster. So again, lots of stuff to do here. Once again, it doesn't quite fit the way I wanted to, so I have to alter some pieces and again do some custom fabrication. But again, that's all because I want to really you know, make it as realistic and detailed as possible. There are some things I don't do a whole lot, so these individual connector pieces, I don't make them simply because that takes a little bit too much time. I try to avoid that. So yeah, you gotta make choices wherever and just work with what you have. So here we are finishing up the last few pieces, and then we can go on. Again, I'm trying to use this pre-made design here for this other section of the track, and unfortunately it doesn't quite work. So we're just gonna keep on going until we kind of figure things out. So that does all work. That all works quite nicely. Now when it comes to these turns that are 90 degree in terms of angle, way high up, I also tried to figure out if I had some pre-made designs, but unfortunately none that I had kind of worked. So unfortunately I had to once again resort to custom fabrication, which again will take a bit of time, but you know, none of the designs I had worked. They would stick out, or they would just not match, and it would just be a sore, you know, a sore thumb, stick out like a sore thumb. So I figured, you know, I can't do that. I got to stick to the quality that I'm used to making, or whatever you want to call it in terms of roller coasters. So I made a custom fabricated support once again. I was able to copy paste the majority of the design though, and I tried to once again save this so I could copy paste this once again. So yeah, it's a work, but slowly but surely we're getting there. I'm just finishing up some of the details for the T support, and I tried to also copy paste that for these big loops, for this hard loop or pretzel roll, whatever it is called. Kind of worked, but again it needed some adjustments to make sure it fits right. But yeah, it's at least I'm able to use some of the pre-made designs, so it saves a little bit of time. And again, hopefully when I make these designs, it's always an investment, these pre-made designs, it'll save me time in next project I make. So the more I make, the more of a selection I have, the more I can use in a future design. So that's kind of the idea behind it, you know. So here I'm trying to copy paste and put that into the other loop, but unfortunately the other loop is lower, so this one again needs a little bit of tweaking, but you know, in all fairness, it doesn't need a whole lot. So here I'm just going over and placing a few flanges, and here I'm placing the supports that are you know, right next to that barrel roll. So that's all working out, and of course some final lower supports. Here I can use my pre-made H2 1H8 support that fits quite well, and the 1H1 that fits for the 0G rolls. Now when it comes to these angle turns, these 90-degree angle turns, I had a few pre-made designs, but unfortunately they're lower than this one because the wing coaster cars are very wide, so I had to, you know, make them a bit higher. So again, I had to plop them down, custom fabricate them a few, change them a little bit, and then I could copy paste them here and there. And again, it's just a bit of an investment. But again, when this when I save this, and maybe if I make a future wing coaster, then I know I can use these designs given the fact that they're the same height. But there you go. So it's coming along quite nicely. Almost done with the basic supports. Now, of course, we need to add some detail, some flanges, some you know, maybe some extra supports here and there. But all in all, the gist of the support work is done. It cost me a fair bit of time, but you know, that is to be expected when you have to do a lot of custom fabrication. You have to alter a bunch of pieces, and in the end, it will be all worth it because I think the end product looks amazing. But I'll leave that up to you once the design is finished. For now, I'm just going to go over the entire coaster, placing all the footers where there are supports. And from here on out, we can start focusing on some other accessories. So we're going to place some of these brakes to make it look a bit more realistic for the station, the end brake run, of course, the mid-course brake run. And then from here on out, I think we're going to start with the station. So I'm going to save the game, just make sure it doesn't crash. And I'm going to use a queue path that's right next to this drop from the mid-course brake run. I think that's really cool that, while you're waiting, the guests are waiting to ride, you can see the coaster drop down. I think that's pretty neat. Now, for one reason, the wing coaster, the station, doesn't have these station blocks, but luckily with this add-on called SKHR91, it's a weird name, I'm able to make custom station blocks, so that's nice. Now, for the roof, I'm using Woden's girders and glass. It's a classic design that I always use. It's very nice, effective, looks kind of cool. So there we go. Now, I thought about making these catwalk pieces, but unfortunately that doesn't fit because these trains are so wide that they will basically the trains, or the part where the guests seat, they will hit against the edge of the catwalk. So I'm not going to use any catwalks for this, which is fine because it also saves me a bit of time. All right, so now we used Beastie's path covers to make the path a bit more realistic, and of course, like any roller coaster, we're going to fence off the areas where there would be guests, because of course we don't want the guests to walk up to the ride, so to say. So we're just going to keep on going, and I'm not going to do it around the entire coaster because I'm not going to use pathing around the entire coaster, just not this time. Now, one cool design I had in mind, which is exactly what Gatekeeper has in Cedar Point, is through these zero G rolls, you have some near miss or near hit, whatever you want to call it, moments. And I wanted to replicate that in this coaster as well. So I'm making these kind of like vertical beams, if you will, that you get close to, but you don't hit. Again, it's another wink to Gatekeeper. So I think that looks really, really cool. So yeah, I like that. So here, I wanted to make a bit of a small pond because I got a new mod where for some rocks, it's called, I think it's just called rocks or something like that. And you're able to place them quite close to each other. And you'll see that this will actually look quite well with a little bit of foliage. And you'll see that in a bit. So first I'm placing just the rocks. Then I'm placing the custom scenery rocks. And then I'm going to use some bushes to add some foliage to this. And I think it looks quite nice. So yeah, I'm still looking for a download link for Shy Guy's rock sets, because that's probably the best rock set for this game, but unfortunately I can't find it anywhere. So here I'm going to add the mist particles, and I think that's going to look really great also in the POV, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, from here on out we're just going to finish up the design. We're almost done, so I'm going to add some canvas tents for the queue, and I'm also going to, of course, add a path for the exit, because you exit the roller coaster on the other side. So we're just going to plan some diagonal pathing here using Beastie's path mods to make it a bit more realistic. And of course, make sure that the exit has all these pathing, and of course fencing to make sure once again that it's the roller coaster is fenced off. So I'm going to use my pre-made design here that I made with JCat Steelworks. Nothing fancy, but it really works. And it also allows for diagonal fencing, so that's why I really like it. So last but not least, we're going to add some trees, of course, to make sure we there's not just plain grass around the roller coaster. Really simple design. I'm just using large oaks and large Douglas firs. It's my preferred choice of foliage and trees. I think it looks quite nice. So it's very simple, but yeah, it really finishes off the design. And that should be almost it. So yeah, that's pretty much the wing coaster. And, up next, you're going to see some POVs and some... Of course, you're going to see the POV and some extra raw footage of like close-ups and everything. But I'm really happy the way this turned out. I love the blue color scheme with the white supports. I think it actually looks really nice. I like the pond that you have next to that, those fast 90-degree angle corners. I love the inversions too. That big hard roll that you start with, the zero G roll, that overbank turn into a barrel roll and another overbank turn. I think it kind of slings you around as you're riding it. So yeah, I love it. And yeah, without further ado, here's the POV.